Well, for those who aren't familiar, on the first Sunday night of each month, we go through the Annals of the World by James Ussher, and we're just going a little bit at a time. It's going to take us about 70 years to get through the book, but this is our 10th month, so we've still got quite a few months to go. But we're going to be in the book of Numbers tonight. I'm going to read several passages. I didn't get the map out. I debated whether to do that or not, but most of where Israel, the Hebrews, are going to be in this section of teaching is desert. There's really not much to see, and I just didn't think that we needed to have the map. So I'm sorry if you were looking forward to the map. Now, last month we left off. We were in Mount Sinai. Moses received the law and the plans for the tabernacle and the various information that God had given to Moses on Mount Sinai. And they stayed there in that area, if I remember right, for about a year. But at this point, where we're starting tonight, God is going to tell Moses, it's time to leave Sinai and go take the land. They're going to go to Canaan. It has been roughly 18 months since they've left Egypt, and they have traveled. They went to Mount Sinai. They've received the law, and now it's time for them to go take Canaan, the promised land, the promise that God had promised to Abraham some 1,000 years ago. This is it. This is the time. They're getting ready to go. Now, as we are probably all familiar with, an utter failure happens and they don't take it, but more, I'm jumping ahead, as you probably already know. So, this is a year from creation, 2,514 years from creation. This is BC 1490. We are now leaving Mount Sinai. And again, I talked in length the last month about where we believed Mount Sinai to be. And again, there's a debate on whether it's on the east side of the Gulf of Aqaba or whether it's on the west side. Again, for our discussion tonight, it's really not that important. But understand that they are leaving that area where Sinai is, and they're going to Kadesh Barnea, which is roughly the southern border of Israel, between Israel and Egypt. And it is a town today. It's not a very large city. As a matter of fact, I looked it up before I came this morning or this evening just to see. It's a small village. I think it said about 700 people. So be like Flat Rock. There you go. So anyway, so we are now leaving the area of Mount Sinai, and we're starting the journey to the Promised Land. Let's go to Numbers chapter 10 and pray that my voice holds out. 7 grandkids and 3 adults were sick in the family this week. And believe it or not, I think only 1 adult is now sick. You can guess who that is. Yeah. Hey, anyway. Numbers chapter 10, let's begin. I'm going to read verses 11 and 12, and then 33 and 34. And it came to pass on the 20th day of the 2nd month in the 2nd year that the cloud was taken up from off the tabernacle of the testimony, and the children of Israel took their journey out of the wilderness of Sinai, and the cloud rested in the wilderness of Paran. And then go down to verse 33. And they departed from the mount of the Lord 3 days' journey, and the ark of the covenant of the Lord went before them in 3 days' journey to reach out a resting place for them. And the cloud of the Lord was upon them by day when they went out of the camp. So they've left Sinai. They are now on their way to Kadesh Barnea, where they're going to take the promised land. Numbers chapter 10, verses 11 through 28 kind of list out how they have left. They're leaving by squadrons, so each tribe is leaving by arrangement. Judah will lead, and then the people will follow behind, and that's in this chapter 10 here. We're not going to read all that, but they all leave in order, and they are now going north to the Promised Land. I will not cover every stop they make on the way to the Promised Land, but I do want to remind you that every stop in this Exodus is covered in Numbers chapter 33. Every stop that they took from Egypt to Jericho is recorded by Moses in Numbers chapter 33. So you can read that if you want to know all the details of how they traveled. But in this particular case, where we are at now would be listed under Numbers chapter 33, verses 15 through 36. Okay? Now, we're going to jump ahead 5 months after leaving Horeb. Now, I did say that it's 11 days' journey from Horeb to Kadesh Barnea, but that did take them some time. They're not, for reference, it takes just 11 days for a traveling group to get there, but they did take their time to get there because they're following the cloud of the Lord. The Lord is leading them from Sinai to Kadesh Barnea, okay? Now we come to the most crucial time of the Exodus, some 18 months after they have left Egypt by a miracle. Remember, I want us to refer back to how God delivered them out of Egypt by a miracle. And not only did they leave, but the Egyptians gave them all of these materials that they are now carrying with them and surviving with in this Exodus. But it was a complete miracle that we know of, that God delivered them out of from Egypt. And we talked at length about how they crossed the Red Sea on dry ground and the miracle of that, and how God spared the Hebrews. And so we need to understand that this right here is they're being led by God, and it's a miracle that they've come this far. Only by the provision of God, feeding them manna in the wilderness, and providing for them water as they go, and providing their route as they go. This is all by the hand of God. But Israel here is poised to begin to possess the land the Lord had promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and their descendants. They've heard about this their whole lives. This I'll say story, but this promise that God made to Abraham has been handed down through generations of Hebrews. And these ones that are now poised to go into the promised land have heard this from their fathers, that God has given us a land. God has delivered us from the hand of the oppressor Egypt. And we are now going to prepare to enter into this promised land. Imagine the excitement that these Hebrews are feeling. Now again, I'm jumping ahead, but they're going to be very disappointed here in a little bit, but we'll talk about that as we get there. But I'm building up this excitement that I'm sure the Hebrews had, because this has been a long journey. You know, they've been out in the wilderness for 18 months or so. They've been living on the provision of the Lord, obviously, all this time, but I'm sure they're ready at this point to get home, a land that they've never seen, but a land that they've heard of for their generations. Moses selects 12 men, one from each of the tribes, to go into Canaan and spy out the land for 40 days, then return and give a report. So Moses gathers one of the leaders of each of the 12 tribes. They all go in and they spy out the land to see kind of how the land lays and how the people are and what they're up against. And they're in the land for 40 days. Let's turn to Numbers chapter 13. Numbers chapter 13, beginning in verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Send thou men, that thou mayst search the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel. Here's God's promise once again. I give you this land. So he's telling Moses, this is the land that I have given you. The promise is reiterated here. Which I give to the children of Israel, of every tribe of their fathers, shall ye send a man, every one a ruler among them. And Moses, by the commandment of the Lord, sent them from the wilderness of Paran. All those men were heads of the children of Israel. And then it lists the names of the men here, beginning in verse 4, that went in. And so for 40 days, they're going to go and wander the land. All right? They see a land that is filled with giants. And the Hebrews are like grasshoppers in comparison. Look down at verse 17. And Moses sent them to spy out the land of Canaan, and said unto them, Get you up this way southward, and go up into the mountain, and see the land, what it is, and the people that dwelleth therein, whether they be strong or weak, or many or few or many. And what the land is that they dwell in, whether it be good or bad, what cities that they dwell in, whether in tents or in strongholds. And what the land is, whether it be fat or lean, whether there be wood therein or not. And be ye of good courage, and bring of the fruit of the land. Now the time was the time of the first ripe grapes. Where am I going here? Verse 33. So they went up and searched the land from the wilderness of Zin to Rehob, as men come to Hamath. And they ascended by the south and came to Hebron, where Ahaman and Shishai and Talmai, the children of Anak, were, Now Hebron, yeah, I ought to know that word. Yeah. Now Hebron was built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. And they came into the brook of Eshcol and cut down from there a branch with one cluster of grapes, and they bare it between two upon a staff, and they brought of the pomegranates and of the figs. The place was called the brook Eshcol because of the cluster of grapes which the children of Israel cut down from thence. And they returned from searching the land after 40 days. And they went and came to Moses and to Aaron and to all the congregation of the children of Israel into the wilderness of Paran to Kadesh, and brought back word to them and to the congregation, and showed them the fruit of the land. So here now the spies are coming back. They're going to give their report. They showed them the fruit. They brought back some of this fruit that they saw in the land. Can you imagine a cluster of grapes so big that you got to put it on a staff and have two men carry it on their shoulders? Holy smokes. I forgot to set, come on now, stay on. There we go. Verse 27, and they told him and said, we came into the land whither thou sent us, and surely it flows with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. So they're showing the fruit that they brought back. Verse 28, oh, nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled, they're very great, and moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. I mean, God, gee whiz, there's strong people in this land. Can you hear them whining? You can hear me whining. I'm trying to put some emotion into it. But can you imagine? God had just told them, this is the land I have given you. And just a few verses later, well, there's no way we can do this. No. Sound like a bunch of Baptists. The people are strong and the cities are walled. Verse 29, the Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, and the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea and the coast of Jordan. These people are everywhere. There's no way we can go in and take this. Oh. Verse 30, and Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, let us go up at once and take the land. That was my version. I looked up instead of reading. Let us go up at once and possess it, for we are able to overcome it. Notice Caleb here. Y'all shut up. Let's go. Chop, chop. That's right. Verse 31, but the men that went up with him said, we ain't able to do that. What they don't realize at this point, and I think we all understand, they're not going to be the ones to do it. It's going to be God that gets them in. It's going to be God that defeats the enemy. It's going to be God that helps them possess the land. They don't have anything to do with it. And we know 38 years later when they go into Jericho, all they had to do was walk around the city. But they got all bothered by what they saw instead of who they believed in. But notice what Caleb says. Let's go up at once. Let's go now. But they brought, verse 31, but the men that went up with him said, we not be able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we. And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, the land, through which we have gone to search it, is the land that is eaten up, that hath eaten up the inhabitants thereof, and all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants. And we are in our own sight as grasshoppers, so we were in their sight. Well, they were seeing themselves in their own sight instead of how the Lord saw them. They saw themselves as they were instead of how God knew that they could be. And again, all this was going to be led by God. So, we can't do this. So God essentially here is just going to say, you're right, you ain't, which we'll see here in just a few moments. So the report of the 10 outweigh the report of Joshua and Caleb, which we have the report of Caleb here in verse 30. But we know by other verses that Joshua was in on the being positive and the gung-ho to go in. So let's look now at Numbers chapter 14, verses 1 through 4. And all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried, and the people wept that night. Understand the excitement they had, say 41 odd days prior, and now they've got this bad report, and now they're weeping. And all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron, and the whole congregation said to them, would God that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would God that we had died in this wilderness? And wherefore hath the Lord brought us into this land to fall by the sword, that Our wives and our children shall be a prey. Were it not better for us to return into Egypt? And they said one another, let us make a captain and let us return into Egypt. It's a wonder God didn't just kill them all right there. You're right here on the border, right? Here is your land. Oh, can we just get somebody to take us back to Egypt? Oh, you know. Yeah. Why God didn't kill them there, I don't know, but we'll see here after a bit what happens. Now, Joshua and Caleb plead with the people to believe God. Look at Numbers chapter 14, verses 6 through 10. And Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, when they were of them that searched the land, rent their clothes, and they spake unto the company of the children of Israel, saying, the land which we passed through to search it is an exceeding good land. If the Lord delight in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land which flows with milk and honey. Notice what they say there in verse 8. If the Lord delights in us, he will bring us into this land. Verse 9, only rebel not against ye the Lord, neither fear ye the people of the land, for they are bread for us. Their defense is departed from them, and the Lord is with us. Fear them not. To be brave like Caleb and Joshua here. I don't know how many, we don't really know how many people were in this whole congregation. We say 1 million, but we don't know. But here's 2 men that are ready to go, and what? 999,998. Is that right? Yeah. That want to go back to Egypt. And you kind of wonder what Moses and Aaron are thinking here. Moses is probably thinking, well, this was a failure. I don't know. But Joshua and Caleb were ready to go. God curses the Hebrews and turns them back from Canaan and banishes them to the wilderness for 40 years. Now, technically it's 38 years from this point, roughly, but it's 40 years total from the time they leave Egypt until the time they actually take Canaan. But again, keep in mind, to be technical, 37 and a half, 38 years from this point forward, okay? Let's look at Numbers chapter 14, verses 20 through 25. So remember, they all want to go back. And Numbers 14:20 says, and the Lord said, I have pardoned according to thy word, but as truly as I live, because I think God here, I didn't read all this, but God was very angry with these folks. But because of the pleading of Moses, God has stayed his hand. But notice what it says there in verse 20, I have pardoned according to thy word, talking to Moses, but as truly as I live, all earth shall be filled with the glory of the Lord, because all those men which have seen my glory and my miracles which I did in Egypt and in the wilderness and have tempted me now these 10 times have not hearkened to my voice. All of these men have seen my glory and my miracles, and they're still not believing in my hand. God is very angry. Verse 23, surely they shall not see the land which I swear unto their fathers, neither shall any of them that provoked me see it. I'm going to verse 35. But my servant Caleb, because he had another spirit with him, and hath followed me fully, him will I bring into the land whereinto he went, and his seed shall possess it. Now the Amalekites and the Canaanites dwell in the valley. Tomorrow turn you and go get you into the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, saying, how long shall I bear with this evil congregation which murmur against me? I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel, which they are murmur against me. Say unto them, as truly as I live, saith the Lord, as ye have spoken in mine ears, so will I do to you. Your carcasses shall fall in this wilderness, and all that were numbered of you, according to your whole number, from 20 years old and upward, which have murmured against me, doubtless ye shall not come into this land, concerning which I swear to make you dwell in, save Caleb the son of Jephunneh and Joshua the son of Nun. All of them, 20 years old and older, are going to die, except for Caleb and Joshua. Moses is going to be the last one of this whole group that dies. Once Moses dies in 38 more some years, then Joshua is going to lead the people into the land, a new generation of people. But God tells them here, your carcasses are going to fall on the wayside. Can you imagine? Maybe I should have done the math. Maybe Dale can for us. But just say you have 1 million people, and all of them die in 40 years. How many is that a day? Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Hillary said that's a cell phone problem. $1 million, so you got 40, let's just say 38 years times 360. And Owen here trying to do it in his head. So an average of 20,000 people are going to die every day. Well, I would say that we're counting everybody, not the people 20 years and older. So, okay, say 15,000. That's a lot of people dying in a day. But it takes them 38 years to die off. But I want us to notice 29. Your carcasses shall fall in the wilderness. You ain't going. Keep in mind, folks, it was right there. And they can't go. Right there. And they can't. Because of unbelief. Continuing on here, where did I leave off? Numbers 14:31. But your little ones, which ye said should be a prey unto them, will I bring in. And they shall know the land which ye have despised. So remember what they said. Our little ones are going to be as prey to these folks. The little ones are going to be the ones that actually take the land. But as for you, your carcasses, they shall fall in this wilderness. And your children shall wander in the wilderness 40 years, and bear your whoredoms until your carcass be wasted in the wilderness. After the number of days which ye search the land, even 40 days, each day for a year, ye shall bear your iniquities, even 40 years, and ye shall know my breach of promise. I, the Lord, have said, I will surely do it unto this evil congregation that are gathered together against me in this wilderness. They shall be consumed, and there they shall die. 1 year for every day that they search the land, they're going to be banished. So because of the rebellion, look now at verse 36. And the men which Moses sent to spy the land, who returned and made all the congregations to murmur against him by bringing up a slander upon the land, even those men that did not bring up the evil report upon the land, died by the plague before the Lord. So these ones that brought the bad report, they died right there. Partly because they're going to be infecting the other people. I mean, they've already been infected, but God let them die by a plague right here. Look now at verse 39 through 45. Now the people kind of we made a big mistake. So they're going to try to correct their mistake here, beginning in verse 39. And Moses told these sayings unto all the people of Israel, and the people mourned greatly. And they rose up early in the morning and gat them up unto the top of the mountain, saying, Lo, we be here, and we go up to the place which the Lord has promised, for we have sinned. So they're like, oops. So they take it in their own hands to go take the country. They've had regrets overnight, so they wake up the next morning and they have made a posse and they're going to go on their own. That's what happens here. They notice that they've sinned. You know, God's already given the judgment. You're not going in. But the next day they turn around and say, let's go in. Verse 41. And Moses said, Therefore now do ye transgress the commandment of the Lord, but it shall not prosper. Go not up, for the Lord is not among you, that ye be not smitten before your enemies. For the Amalekites and the Canaanites are there before you, and ye shall fall by the sword, because you are turned away from the Lord. Therefore the Lord will not be with you. But they presumed to go up into the hilltop. Nevertheless, the ark of the covenant of the Lord departed not out of the camp. And when the Amalekites came down, the Canaanites which dwelt in the hill smote them and discomfited them, even to Hormah. So they tried to go in on their own volition, and they got defeated. The people reconsider and go and decide to take the land. However, God said no. And he now commands them to break camp and go toward the wilderness near the Red Sea. Let's see, finishing up here. So we are all familiar with the Hebrews wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. Every person over 20 years old at the time of the events that we just read here at Kadesh Barnea died in this wandering. Everyone except Joshua and Caleb. That's a lot of people that died. Of these people, Moses was the last to die. All right? Can you imagine Moses Everyone that he had led out of the land of Egypt some 40 years prior, everyone except for the two have died. The path from where they went has to be littered with dead bodies. And you know what? It was all because they didn't believe the Lord. And I said earlier, it was right there. And they didn't go because they didn't believe the Lord. And then we see what happens when they took matters in their own hands and said, oh, we'll go ahead and go. They got defeated. Of these people, Moses was the last to die. Once Moses died, Joshua took leadership, and God began the preparation for the Hebrews to move into Canaan, Jericho being the first conquest, which we will talk about in coming months. All of the stops of Israel, all of the stops Israel did once they left Egypt is chronicled in Numbers 33. Now, jumping ahead 38 years to BC 1452, after wandering for 37 years, God brings them toward Canaan through Edom. God commanded them not to fight Edom because the Edomites were their brothers. The Edomites were descendants from Esau, Jacob's brother. So the Edomites were the cousins of Israel, or the Israelites. If you want to turn to Deuteronomy chapter 2, I'll read this and then we'll be done. This is such a sad story. A sad moment in history. It's not necessarily a story as much as it is, actual event. But they had waited their whole lives to get to that point. And keep in mind, too, I want to mention this. Yes, Caleb and Joshua were eager and ready to go, but they had to wander throughout the wilderness just like all the others did. God didn't just bring them in and put them in there. They had to follow along and go through the wilderness just like all the others. And they had to witness all these people dying. Deuteronomy chapter 2, I'm going to read this real quick and then I'll be done. Then we turned and took our journey into the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea, as the Lord spake unto me, and we compassed Mount Seir many days. This is from Kadesh Barnea. They're leaving, okay? And we compassed this mount long enough, turn you northward, and command you the people, saying, you are to pass through the coast of your brethren, the children of Esau, which dwell in Seir, and they shall be afraid of you. Take ye good heed unto them yourselves, therefore. Meddle not with them, for I will not give you their land, no, not so much as footbreadth, because I have given Mount Seir to Esau for a possession. You shall buy meat of them for your money. You shall buy meat of them for money, that ye may eat, and ye also, and ye shall also buy water of them for money, that you may drink. For the Lord thy God hath blessed thee in all the work of thy hand. He knows the walking through his great wilderness these 40 years by the Lord thy God hath been with thee. Thou lackest nothing. And when you pass by from our brethren, the children of Esau, which dwelled in Seir, through the way of the plain of Elath, and from Elon Geber, we turned and passed by the way of the wilderness of Moab. And so this is just the journey of them leaving Kadesh. And now they're going to just kind of spin in circles until they get up near opposite Jericho, which is going to take them a few years to get there. So comments or questions? Felt like I kind of butchered that up tonight. All right. Well, we'll pick up there next month. And I think next month we do actually get into Jericho. I haven't looked that far ahead, but I think that's where we're at, beginning next month. So anyway, if you stand, we'll pray and we'll be dismissed. Brother Don Mendenhall, will you dismiss us this evening?